Public Affairs. Thank you very much. And as protocol demands, when he comes in, we shall rise to give him the honor. Thank you. All right, please let us rise on our feet as we welcome Professor Nwakanma. While we remain standing, we should take the national anthem. That will be followed by the university anthem. Thank you. Nigeria's with love and strength and faith, the labor of his house shall never be to serve with heart and mind, our nation and free. The university anthem. Please be seated. Very distinguished personalities. We once again want to welcome you to the 27th valedictory lecture series of the University of Port Harcourt, organized in honor of Professor Prince Nwakanma, Department of Finance and Banking, Faculty of Management Sciences, University of Port Harcourt. We want to welcome each and every one of you to the unique University of Port Harcourt. And I'm sure that you are aware that University of Port Harcourt is #1 in the recent ranking amongst all the universities in Nigeria. And of course, we are number 19 in Africa. Please put our hands together. And I want to use this opportunity and this privilege to introduce to our friends, benefactors, and of course, stakeholders of the university, the #1 Vice Chancellor in Nigeria, Professor Owonari Abraham George Will. We are all very proud. We thank you for your purposeful leadership. Thank you. We so appreciate. Let me briefly, for the sake of our guest, that we have a very solid team. And I'm here to introduce to you the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, Professor Clifford Oforum. Also seated in our midst today, a very refined gentleman. By the grace of God, he is the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Development of the University, Professor Yopo Similaye. And we also have our big mother. I am talking about the Registrar of the University, Dr. Gloria Chinda. I want to jump to the last person seated here. I'm talking about the Dean of one of the largest faculties in the university. I'm talking about the Dean of Management Sciences, Professor G.I. Umar. You're welcome. And of course, there is somebody seated here. At the appropriate time, is going to be introduced to you. But let me just give you a tip of the iceberg that we are here today to celebrate and to rejoice with him. He is no other than Professor Prince Nwakanma, the erudite scholar. Thank you. At the appropriate time, he is going to be introduced to you. And he's not here alone, he's here with the First Lady. I'm talking about the wife. Please put your hands together as we welcome the wife of Professor Prince Nwakanma. Let me also welcome all our guests who travel from far and near to be part of this occasion. All our professors that are sitting here, you are most welcome. Everybody, stakeholders, benefactors to the university, you are most welcome to the #1 university in Nigeria. Thank you so much. Let me, at this point in time, respectfully hand over to the registrar of the university for the rest of the program. Please put our hands together for her.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 27th valedictory lecture. I hereby invite the Vice Chancellor, Professor Owonari Abraham George, to make his opening remarks.
Thank you. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Development, the Registrar of the University, the Dean, Faculty of Management Sciences, our valedictorian, Professor P.C. Nwakanma, the family of our valedictorian, former Professor Ajenka, wife of our former Vice Chancellor, Mrs. Ajenka, Dr. Mrs. Ajenka, you are welcome. Former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Indoka, you are welcome. Other distinguished professors, here, distinguished the University of Port Harcourt, because this place is called Professorial Offices Stroke Auditorium, which is the venue of the 27th valedictory lecture series of the University of Port Harcourt. The valedictory lecturer today, Professor Prince Nwakanma, is an accomplished professor of finance and banking. He is an administrator par excellence. He is a mentor, a social critic, a complete gentleman, and a scholar of high repute. He has titled his valedictory lecture, Crisis in Nigeria's Federal Universities. Is Cash the culprit? Professor P.C. Nwakanma will in the next 1 hour or thereabout do justice to the topic he has chosen to talk on. I'm sure in a manner that all of us seated here will begin to think whether we know the real causes of the crisis in our universities. It is my expectations that after listening to this valedictory lecture, we'll all be abreast with the real issues and the origin of the crisis in our universities. Our 27th valedictory lecturer is a financial expert. And I have no doubt in my mind that today, in addition to issues of crisis in the universities, we will all go home with 1 or 2 bits on issues of financial management. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit tight and let's listen attentively to our 27th valedictorian as he talks on cash, a subject he knows best. Thank you.
I hereby invite the Dean, Faculty of Management Sciences, Professor Godwin I. Omo, to deliver the citation. The Dean, sir.
Vice Chancellor, sir. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Development, the Registrar and Secretary to Council of the University, distinguished professors and colleagues here present, please permit me to rest on a well-established protocol led by Mr. Vice Chancellor. This is citation for Professor Prince Chinai Cherem Nwakanma, BSc, UNN, MBA, Uniport, MSc, PhD, FUTO, that's Federal University of Technology, Owerri, HCIB, FCIF, LAN, SCS, CNA. Professor Prince C. Nwakanma was born on the 23rd of August, 1953 at Uzuakole in Bende local government area of present-day Abia State to the family of late Reverend Dr. John N. Nwakanma and Mrs. Rose O. Nwakanma. Professor Nwakanma completed his primary education in 1966 at the Assemblies of God School, 222 Clifford Road, Aba. He completed his secondary education at National High School, Aba, where he earned the West African School Certificate in 1973. He proceeded to the University of Nigeria, Enugu campus, where he graduated with Bachelor of Science in Accountancy with good honors in 1977. He served as a National Youth Service Corps officer in Kaduna with special posting to Central Bank of Nigeria in Kaduna there. He also has a Master of Business Administration from the University of Port Harcourt in 1984. He obtained his Master of Science, MSc, and Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Financial Management in 2002 and 2006, respectively. He was employed as Accountant 1 in 1979 in the Budgetary Department of the university, and by dint of hard work, rose to the rank of Principal Accountant in 1985. He was appointed Lecturer 2 in 1984, and in the same year appointed Acting General Manager of Uniport Investment in 1985, and became the Managing Director before returning to the Department of Banking and Finance to continue his career as a lecturer in 1996. He was appointed Professor of Finance and Banking in 2014. Please, on your booklet there, I think there's a printing error here that wrote 2006. It's actually 2014. Professor Nwakanma has published widely in many learned and impact factor journals. He was the third national president of Chartered Institute of Investment Analysts in Nigeria. He's a consultant to several medium and small scale enterprises. He has several learned articles to his credit. He co-authored a number of books. He has spent a total of 44 years in the University of Port Harcourt and 27 years as a lecturer. He has held several positions in the Faculty of Management Sciences, including acting head of department, coordinator BSc/ACIB program, associate dean of Faculty of Management Sciences, and acting director, University of Port Harcourt Entrepreneurial Center. I dare to say, as a sitting dean, that while he was holding all these positions, he performed meritoriously. He has served on several committees in the department, faculty, and the university. He has served as external examiner to several universities in Nigeria and assessed several people for professoral positions. Was a member of the special committee that designed the curriculum in banking and finance for Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. He was on the board of Imo Hotels Limited as well. He has served as a church secretary and a deacon at the Assemblies of God, Silver Valley, Port Harcourt. He has been a Sunday school teacher and a men fellowship president for several years. He is happily married to Mrs. Caroline N. Nwakanma. The union is blessed with 5 children and 6 grandchildren. Professor Nwakanma was the 147th inaugural lecturer of University of Port Harcourt. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to present to you a consummate scholar, a patriot, an unassuming social critic, and the 27th valedictory lecturer, the first in the Faculty of Management Sciences. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Standing on the existing protocols, presided by my dean, it is my honor and privilege to stand before this grand audience to present my valedictory lecture. Titled Crisis in Nigeria's Federal Universities. Is cash the culprit? I'll be flipping through some of the aspects. That's dedication. This lecture is dedicated to various members of my family, my immediate and extended families, whose names you can see on the screen. I am also acknowledging a number of persons, as you see on the screen, But I'll take exception to my parents who God used to bring me into this universe, but they are now of blessed memory. I also have to acknowledge my elder brother, Professor Nwakanma, who is expected to be here shortly. He has been a very close friend of mine. We grew up together and we have remained Buddhists right from our childhood. I also have to single out the 9th Vice Chancellor of this unique university, highly rated. In fact, it will soon be a flagship university in Nigeria. Professor George Will Abraham Owonaro. Without his gracious approval and allocation of the needed resources, this lecture wouldn't have been. I'm grateful, sir. Then the rest of the people, I also have to single out the man who employed me in this university, late Chief MSN Mbajogo, a world-renowned financial guru. I also recognize late Professor E.U. Kwon, the first Vice Chancellor of this university, as well as Professor S.J.S. Cookie and now Professor Moore. I will now skip the rest. Now, let's look at some of the definitions that form the basis of this lecture. A university is an educational institution. And so we have to start by looking at what education is. The definition is there as given by Lawrence Creaming. Then we also have to consider this thing is it getting stiff? I think this one. Yes. All right. Okay. Next. Okay. We also look at the definition of informal education as given by Coombs and Ahmed. As a matter of fact, informal education is the focus of this lecture. Then we also look at what is productivity. We said that productivity can only be achieved when entrepreneurs understand their limitations and are willing to cooperate and share the products of their ingenuity with those who have the capability to turn their pet products into huge market success. And to buttress this definition, we rely on the story of Coca-Cola in terms of its strategic pursuit, as told by Tefi Alonso. The story is there how Dr. John Bebenton discovered the Coca-Cola product, and through the intervention of investors who are also named there, that small product was turned into a national success and eventually the international brand that we know it to be today. That is what it takes to turn a product idea into a huge market success. We also have to look at self-development. There's a brilliant definition given by Dr. Davis, and I would like to read that out. He said that self-development is a process of learning new things and building new skills. Skills that help us to increase our chances of success, achieving our goals, and manifesting our dreams. Then we also have to look at French Declaration of Human Rights, which says that men are born and remain free and equal in rights. Social distinctions may be founded only upon the general good. But here in Nigeria, we have the reverse. Social distinctions are not founded upon the general good. And that's part of the thesis of my lecture. Then we also have to take a look at somebody's comment on the Niger Delta. This is significant because when a nation in crisis, and that crisis arises from ideological quagmire, whereby we have two opposing forces that are warring against each other. Resource control by the Niger Delta militants, and Boko Haram by what? Whoever, the Islamic fundamentalists. Now, look at what he said about the Niger Delta. He said that few regions in the world have gone as unfortunate as Nigeria's oil-rich Niger Delta. The Delta's abundant natural wealth stands in stark contrast to its palpable underdevelopment. So if people from this area decide to agitate, will you blame them? All right. Now, we also look at what UNESCO said about higher education. He said higher education is a rich cultural and scientific asset which enables personal development and promotes economic, technological, and social change. It promotes the exchange of knowledge, research, and innovation, and equips students with the skills needed to meet ever-changing labor markets. For students in vulnerable circumstances, it is a passport to economic security and a stable future. And that is the future, and that is the opportunity that the Nigerian government wants to snatch away from the Nigerian youths by whatever thing they are doing with university education in Nigeria. Now, let's look at some excerpts from Things Fall Apart, which is also very germane to what we're discussing. This was a conversation between Mr. Brown and Nwakanma. He said, in this way, Mr. Brown learned a good deal about the religion of the clan, and he came to the conclusion that a frontal attack on it would not succeed. And so he built a school and a little hospital in Umuofia. He went from family to family, begging people to send their children to his school. But at first, they only sent their slaves or sometimes their lazy children. You can see those who are manning a public service in the past. Mr. Brown begged and argued and prophesied. He said that the leaders of the land in the future would be men and women who had learned to read and write. If Umuofia failed to send her children to the school, strangers would come from other places to rule them. They could already see that happening in the native court, while the DC was surrounded by strangers who spoke his language. Most of these strangers come from the distant town of Umuru on the bank of the great river where the white man went first. Then let's look at the definition of a wealthy man. There was a wealthy man in Okonkwo's village who had 3 huge barns, 9 wives, and 30 children. His name was Nwakanma, and he had taken the highest but one title, which a man could take in the clan. It was for this man that Okonkwo had to work to earn his first seed years. Then the next one that we need, that also should interest us, is the fact that the white man had indeed brought a lunatic religion, but he had also built a trading store. And for the first time, palm oil and kernel became things of great price, and much money flowed into Umuofia. Then let's look at some thoughts on Nigeria youth movement, which succeeded Lagos youth movement. Their mission was the development of a united nation out of the conglomeration of peoples who inhabited Nigeria, and the promotion of complete understanding, along with a sense of common nationalism among different elements in the country. Politically, the NYM sought to increase the native Nigerian participation in civil service and government with the ultimate goal of self-government. Then let's look at what preceded the agitation for universities. Yaba offered no courses on either public administration or economics, which were prerequisites for colonial administrative positions. Having said that, we now start with education key to human development. Well, of course, we know that the tremendous improvement in human capability and the essential elements of wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and skills required to increase the contribution of people to the socioeconomic development of any society appears to have been achieved through education. Then education has greatly contributed to improve the quality of human life. Imagine how our ancestors lived and compare that with how we are living today. That wouldn't have been possible without what? Education. All of us seated here wouldn't have had the opportunity or privilege of being here if we had not had the kind of education we have received. So that's why education is very important and valuable. Nature, as the original teacher of humanity, meant that self-education is the bedrock of all learning. The ability to understand your environment and how to survive and thrive in it. That is actually the core of what education represents. And nature taught us that, because nobody taught us when we are hungry that we need to feed ourselves. Am I with you? The kind of food we should eat that will give us nutrition. It's nature that taught us this. And then by documenting them over the years, they became a kind of code by which we can survive. Then also, I think it was Aristotle who said that a child is born blank. He called it, a child is born what? Blank, mental blankness. And that it is only as the brain begins to develop, that it begins to acquire what? Knowledge and information. And that is why education is very vital and important. So we can look at education as a phenomenon and a process. As a phenomenon, it is ubiquitous and in use. To the man on the street, it involves the act of learning or teaching. As a process, education connotes the various activities undertaken by interested parties that work in sync towards the development of the human factor for his own good and for the good of society. 3 factors are critical to human development: the feeling of lack, the urge to know, and the search for credible solution. These are the critical factors for human development. Among the 3 modes of learning, formal, non-formal, and informal, informal learning makes the greatest contribution to human development. The nexus between human potentials and outcomes enables us to understand the missing link between resource endowment of a society and its level of socio-economic development. Nigeria is hugely endowed, but how developed are we? Please, can you help me? As a matter of fact, schools were shut in UK when Isaac Newton discovered this law of gravity. So they were more or less on forced vacation. But while he was beneath an apple tree, he saw an apple fall down. He asked himself, why did it not go up or sideways or whatever? His mind was put into critical thinking. And by that process, he developed a very vital law of what? Gravity that has served to solve a lot of human problems. That is why self-education is very, very vital. Then let's look at the example given by Adam Smith. In his story of a boy who discovered how to regulate the fire engine without always manning it. This young man likes to play all the time. But because he liked to play, he now thought of a solution to distracting himself by the job he was doing. He now devised a means of keeping the machine self-regulated while he enjoys his idle time with his friends. That's what critical thinking. Rote learning is more characteristic of curriculum-based learning than self-learning. It fits more into formal education that appears to encourage more of certificate mongering than critical thinking. That leads more towards critical thinking leads more towards self-learning or self-education, helping with self-development. Most innovators are critical thinkers who focus on problems that plague society and will not be at ease until a solution can be established. If those who pride themselves as allies or leaders of society happen to be critical thinkers, it will be easy for them to lead the society out of the woods and place them on the trajectory to solid economic development. Philosophers are those who are continuously occupied with matters that confront society, that myths and superstition upon which religion was founded prevented people from knowing. Philosophers unblocked those myths and superstition. You know, religion is always built and woven around what? Myths and superstition. But philosophers said, no, you can reason some of these things that appear to be what? Mysterious. And so knowledge started what? Evolving and then growing. Education, by helping humans to develop their minds, will enable them to produce and contribute to wealth creation. The disparity in economic opportunities, in my contemplation, can be traced to what economists call factors of production. the resources available to a people that can be combined for production of goods and services, including land, labor capital, and entrepreneurship. Well, it's interesting that the human factor of all the factors of production appears to be the one that is most susceptible of education. Human development, therefore, is a result of successful education of the people, which can enhance their capabilities to enable them magnify the productivity of the other factors of production. Our abundant natural resources, suitable one for a list of non-oil mineral resources, combined with the enormous oil resources, have not made appreciable impact on the economy because of weak human development. In spite of the rich endowment, the dearth of capable human resources to protect and develop our natural resources is so critical to the extent that it is estimated that the nation loses 50 trillion naira annually from untapped or undertapped natural resources. Please help me find it. Okay. All right, those are the abundant natural resources. Almost every state is well represented. And what are we doing with those resources? Then economic development focuses on human development. Human beings produce and consume wealth of any country. Meanwhile, the ability of anyone to contribute to wealth creation and share in its distribution depends on the individual's level of development. Human development is the process by which an individual becomes increasingly aware of who he is and what he is capable of doing, not just to make his lot better in life, but also contribute to better the life of others. The nexus between economic development and human development is that human development focuses on the welfare of the majority of a country's population rather than the quantum of economic growth achieved within a given period of time. To achieve the lofty goals of human development, higher income, greater employment opportunities, reduction of poverty, and enhanced participation in community affairs requires a commitment of government and improvement in the ability of the people to make it happen. Formal education opens you up to opportunities to participate in creating wealth and getting a fair share of the wealth. Non-formal education equips you with skills and technical knowledge that can also make you participate in wealth creation and share in the fortunes that accompany it. Informal education enables you to harness your brain power, letting on formal and non-formal knowledge you have acquired, because the majority of the people from assessing resources required for their development. How are oil blocks shared in this country? That seeks to provide safety nets for the most vulnerable in society. Human development-oriented agitation contrast sharply with anti-human development-oriented agitation that is geared towards destabilizing the polity. Now, I have already mentioned Boko Haram and Niger Delta militants. They are all what? Agitations. One is what? Human development oriented. The other one is anti-human what? Development oriented. Western education is what? Bad. And you are living in a country where you have opposing ideologies. One does not believe in Western education. One believes in Western education. How can two work together except they do what? Agree. That's the problem we're having. A look at the human development records of India, China, and Nigeria lays bare the awful magnitude and effect of man-made inequality in Nigeria. India, in a period of 15 years, 25 to 2020, pulled 450 million people out of extreme poverty. China, in 40 years, 1982 to 2022, pulled 770 million people out of abject poverty. But Nigeria, in a period of 38 years, 1985 to 2003, plunged 54 million indigenous peoples of Nigeria into untold miseries and woes. Higher education and wealth creation. University education is the apex of institutionalized system of developing human capacity. The three other institutions of higher learning are also involved with creating opportunities for higher level human capacity development. The tragedy of formal education in Nigeria is its foreign content that our policymakers have been unable to effectively localize to make it conducive to economic development. How can you localize it? When Boko Haram on one side and their champions are agitating that Western education is not I thought I have 1 hour. I used it. All right. All right. Okay. Okay. Then the tragedy of formal education in Nigeria is foreign content. Content that our policymakers have not been able to, okay? Now, higher education and wealth creation. This unfortunate situation is caused by the national cohesion that has made it difficult to have a unified national ethos for educational development in Nigeria. Those who agitated for university education in Nigeria were misguided because they underrated the potentials of Yaba Higher College simply because it had no affiliation, foreign affiliation, and the graduates were not trained for appointment to colonial public office. Unfortunately, civil service and government officials do not create wealth. Rather, they consume wealth. And for some of them, they garner their wealth through unscrupulous means. They extract wealth through taxation and allocate for public services or infrastructure that never works. The white man distorted our concept of wealth based on production of tangible goods when he monetized the traditional economy, exposing us to the dangers of seeing money as well that marks the process of real wealth creation. Wealth creation and creation are two different outcomes. You create wealth when you engage in the production of goods and services. You grow wealth simply by accumulating money, not by quick production, but based purely on financial transactions. Ponzi schemes or internet money, tunneling and funneling. Henry Ford dreamt of making cars for the multitudes. He succeeded and created wealth. At the same time, he grew his wealth. Not so with the public officer who, through dubious enterprise, corners organization funds to himself. Nigeria is a paradox in wealth creation, massive fiscal development, and all kinds of lost artifacts with rising levels of poverty. Economic growth without development, table 2. Allegedly stolen funds and illicit funds flowed by public officials, 1980 to 2000, amounting to 21.22 billion and $242 billion and naira respectively. So those are the people who are implicated. Then crisis in federal universities. University education in Nigeria was started by the federal government under the colonial administration as the University of Ibadan and all that. It will appear that the crisis in federal universities stem from ideological quagmire caused by divergent disposition of the military or civilian leadership of the country at various times. The conversion of former regional universities to federal universities in 1975 that increased the number of federal universities from 2 to 6 in one fell swoop. Currently, the federal government owns and operates about 49 conventional and specialized universities. Now, these are list of universities. The crisis in the federal universities appear to be the effect of centrifugal forces of religious bigotry, and toxic ethnic rivalry that manifested in the absence of national morals and ethos that should guide the expanded federal university system. ASU's grievances with the federal government that led to the loss of about 50 months of academic activities at the various campuses over a period of 24 years is nothing short of a disaster. Imagine a producer of goods and services allowing its workers to shut down production for 50 months, 4 years plus, in a span of 24 years. Does that man believe he's doing something valuable? That means they don't believe in the products of our universities. And that is why they could afford to allow universities to go out of session incessantly for so long a period, which is philosophical word, bankruptcy. No federal education authority that has value for university education would be comfortable setting its promising youth back in a serious society. It suggests that university education, and indeed all cadres of public education institutions, is not considered important to the economic development of the country. Is cash the culprit? Cash in this context symbolizes money. In the most liquid form, money can also be seen as a symbol of production. If the federal authorities believe that its universities are wealth creators and not expenditure centers, then it will do everything to prevent the crisis in the federal university system. This is not the case because they do not see universities as strategic assets that, if properly managed, will spur economic development. Unfortunately, those who agitated for the establishment of university education in Nigeria did so in the interest of, not in the interest of wealth creation, but to gain access to position of authority where they will preside over the allocation of money without the slightest thought to the creation of national wealth. For them, it was considered a gate pass to partake in the plundering of the system after the manner of the colonial administrators who had no stake in the country. The abuse of money is the real culprit, and not money per se. You abuse money when you do not get it in a legitimate way and or manage it in the proper way to create value for society. Scramble for Nigeria, a myth or reality. It is not in doubt to any discerning Nigerian that there is a scramble for Nigeria on a scale more vicious and devastating than the scramble for Africa by the former European powers. The only difference is that the British that colonized Nigeria were acting in the interest of their home government, whereas a few opportunistic Nigerians, masquerading as politicians under a borrowed democracy they know little or nothing about, have seized power, acquired our lands and natural resources, confiscated the people's money to the exclusion of the majority who have been rendered weak and powerless. You can liken it to the medieval era in Europe. After the fall of Western Roman Empire, following the collapse of a central authority, the mighty and powerful conquered territories and assumed control by the land and the people. In our own case, the British conquered Nigeria, ruled it from 1914 until we gained independence in 1960. They plundered our wealth and took it to their home country for the development of British economy. But Nigeria is being plundered by Nigerians for their personal selfish and greedy end, with the vast quantum of resources illicitly frittered away outside the shores of Nigeria, leaving the vast majority of the people impoverished and destitute. One wonders what kind of public university and indeed public education policy they will have for the people they have rendered so miserable. Confront the brutal facts. Jim Collins in his book Built to Last used the phrase confront the brutal facts as inevitable for a company that wants to deal with some ugly circumstances in order to sustain profitability and growth. The brutal facts are the federal system is met in deep crisis and needs urgent attention to stop its downhill. Also see is that the federal government should fund its universities to international standards and pay its academics living wage befitting of academics in line with the rule of law, so as to be seen to have implemented the ASU FGN 2009 agreement. That if our resources were to be properly harnessed and managed, there will be no need for tuition fees, not only in federal universities, but all public universities in the Federation. An improvement in the quality of university graduates will manifest in greater productivity. The prevailing low productivity is a symptom of capability deficit of the graduates that can be remedied through enhanced learning environment and appreciable improvement in teacher motivation. Money or cash is not responsible for the woes of federal universities, and indeed every other public university in the Federation. The mindset of political and public office holders who think more of what they can extract from the system rather than how to make the system create value for the majority of people, that is where the problem crouches. The growing financialization of most developed economies is having a negative effect on the less developed economies that seem oblivious of the fact that money supply, not backed with productivity, will create artificial value and a recipe for stagflation. And stagflation is higher inflation with higher unemployment. Of course, money cannot be manufactured in thin air. Adam Smith, in his theory of value, argued that it is only the labor that goes directly into the production of goods that can be considered productive and relevant in determination of value. Since the value of labor is embedded in the goods, any unsold stock can be carried forward and then the value recouped in the subsequent period. He maintained that the sex of workers not directly engaged in the production of goods, such as manual servants, civil servants, legislators, judicial officers, including all cadres of security personnel, since the value of their efforts cannot be directly traced to goods produced in the period, he considered them unproductive. Unlike labor, their services are intangible and extinguished upon consumption. Can you tell me the productive value of a judge who perverts justice? Government and corporate officials at whatever level have been raised by teachers and university lecturers at the various stages of their training that enables them to function. Their continuous effectiveness is maintained by their submitting to further knowledge development by their teachers. The political and security apparatus of the Nigerian state seem to operate like the proverbial dog that ate the bone hung on its neck. Rather than safeguard our valuable public assets, the assets keep on being stolen at unprecedented rate, allegedly by the same persons required to secure them. Since the inception of the Fourth Republic, this has gone on without consequences, indefensible failure in discharging their constitutional duty. The job of politicians and public officials is to spend money they did not produce. It is therefore ridiculous that this class of public officials are unable to appreciate the value of lecturers and indeed all categories of teachers. The proposed upward review of public officers' pay by 114% recently announced by the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission is befaulting. Is it to encourage them for making Nigeria a dysfunctional state that is on the verge of failure? In spite of all the purported reforms, the country is still terribly plagued with outrageous and ever-increasing inflationary spiral, serious insecurity, ravaging unemployment, menacing an unbridled poverty level, abysmally high general state of economic despondency. Is that what they are reporting them for? The political and security apparatus of the Nigerian state seem. All right. Economic development. Universities are expected to be key players in promoting economic development through the production of highly skilled, self-motivated, and patriotic graduates committed to providing the required leadership in the public and private sectors of the economy. It seems this lofty goal is not being achieved by federal and indeed other public universities in Nigeria that have been around for several years. Population control is an index for measuring the effectiveness of population policy of a country. Malaysia, for example, experienced a population compound growth rate of 0.06% per annum against Nigeria's 0.92% per annum from 1960 to 2023. During the period, then GDP per capita is a measure of economic welfare based on gross national income. On this, Malaysia experienced compound per capita income growth rate of 3.4%, Nigeria 0.39% per annum. It is not surprising that Nigeria has a large population policy and extremely low productivity because it has perpetuated the spurious revenue sharing formula that treats productivity with disdain, according great importance to land mass and population that has no bearing with human development. The product of the country depends on its organization. The British colonial government organized the Nigerian state on the principles of secularism and democracy, but these have been subverted by unpatriotic politicians that have created great uncertainty in the political atmosphere of the country. Is corruption the problem? Most people in Nigeria believe that corruption is the major cause of Nigeria's socioeconomic woes. Chinua Achebe, his traitors, the problem with Nigeria, heaped the blame on leadership. I think that the real cause is that society has refused to engage in self-development, self-education, and self-development as the antidote to lackluster economic development. Corruption is certainly bad and should be stamped out. But to stamp it out, the people must wake up from their slumber. This will entail eliminating inadequate self-education and self-development and the dazzle of modern civilization, whereby we enjoy the good things of modernism, but we don't know how these things can be created. Don't worry, I'll soon round up. I'm not going to be here tomorrow. The black man may not be inferior to other races, but seems to be under the plague of intellectual poverty that has affected its ability to self-educate and self-develop in order for the society to develop. It is quite depressing that Nigeria, with its vast, abundant, and human natural resources, is at the bottom 5 of the countries with the lowest HDI of 0.35 as of United Nations 2020 HDI report. Yet the political gladiators who have imposed themselves on the people do not seem to be ashamed simply because they lack the consciousness of what is expected of good leadership, using the state weapons of violence and suppression to perpetuate their capture of the country and keep themselves in power. What next? I'm about to round up. The Nigerian people should embrace self-education and self-development as necessary and sufficient condition for economic development. There should be a change of attitude to pursuit of money. Understanding that money was meant to facilitate production, that should engender a culture of productivity for there to be economic development. Federal universities and indeed all public universities can afford tuition-free policy if the universities can be made to become wealth creators. Without making Nigeria a truly secular and democratic nation, it will be difficult to turn the university system around by creating and implementing policies that would be based on shared ethos and morals. Conclusion and observations. The purpose of university education and all forms of higher education in Nigeria should be re-examined and made to advance the cause of economic development and shared prosperity. The evils of man-made inequality should be reduced by aggressive public reassessment to misallocation and looting of our commonwealth. The situation is so bad that Nigeria is being plundered by Nigerians for the self-interest of the looters. Nigerians must be rallied to stop the looters from further impoverishing the people and making them slaves in their own land. Thank you.
Officially present. Professor Nwakanma will officially present this lecture to the Vice Chancellor. Put your hands together one more time. Thank you. Thank you.
May I now invite the Vice Chancellor, Professor Abraham George, to make his closing remarks. The Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, Registrar. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Development, the Registrar of the University, the Dean, Faculty of Management Sciences, and our beloved valedictorian. Professors, distinguished professors who are here present, the family of our valedictorian, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, all is well that ends well. Today, our valedictory lecturer has discharged himself creditably as he bows out of the services of this unique university. You will all agree with me that Professor P.C. Nwakanma is indeed a very big masquerade in his specialty of finance and banking. He has indeed danced marvelously to the admiration of all of us. And he has in every credible manner displayed what he has been doing all along in this university as a professor of finance and banking. I am indeed very satisfied, and hopefully you all too are satisfied that Professor Nwakanma's knowledge of finance and banking is very profound. In these 67 pages of his valedictory lecture, our 27 valedictory lecturer took us through the origins of higher education in Nigeria, the misconceptions, the issues, and the crises. He stated that higher education is any education beyond secondary school and takes place in tertiary institutions such as universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, etc., etc. He traced the origin of tertiary education in Nigeria to the dreams of our founding fathers wishing to take over from the white man as a prelude to gaining independence. And that started with the establishment of Yaba Higher College in 1934. He told us of the establishment of the first university in Nigeria, the University of Ibadan, in 1948 as a college. And then onwards up to about 49 federal universities as of today. He posited that the essence of university education is to develop an enlightened crop of people capable of piloting the affairs of the country and ensuring its development. What then is a crisis in Nigeria's federal universities? He posited that the entire system was imported, therefore not indigenous. And at best, it is a blend of British and American systems of education, devoid of any unique ideological leanings. He stated that the establishment, growth, and development of universities in Nigeria were politically driven with no natural mores or ethos. He stated that the crisis in Nigerian Federal University needs serious attention. And in trying to postulate the possible causes, he stated the following. 1, the confiscation of regional universities in 1975, following the abrogation of regional governments. 2, frequent trade and industrial disputes between academic and other staff unions with governments, disrupting, paralyzing academic activities, thus defacing academic calendars, with almost about 50 months lost to strikes between 1999 and 2022. 3, the original idea of creating universities was inordinate desire by our founding fathers to rule and partake in the lifestyle of the white man and not to create wealth. He also said that the university system in Nigeria, while being programmed for certification for professionals and career development, lacks the ability to instill in students the culture of critical thinking, which is needed for self-development. He also said political misadventures are destroying the value of university education in national economic development. What then is the real crisis? On answering whether cash is the culprit in the crisis in Nigerian federal universities, on page 45 of this document, our 27 valedictory lecturer puts it simply The answer is uncertain. Thus, he also does not know whether cash is a real culprit. He said the answer is uncertain. Page 45, you can open the page 5. He said the answer is uncertain. However, he went on to state that there are 4 ways to obtain money: wealth creation, accretion, that is investment, gift, and lastly, corrupt enrichment. He posited that the abuse rather than love of money is the root of all evils, thereby disputing the Holy Book. You know, the Holy Book says the love of money is the root of all evil, but our inaugural lecture has cancelled that. He said it's the abuse of money that is the root of all evils. He's a born-again Christian, no? He's a born-again Christian, so you know. In concluding, our professor stated that the crisis in our society, and by extension, our universities, will have been avoided or averted if our founding fathers imbibe lessons of self-learning and self-development. And if the perception of higher degrees and diplomas as mere meal tickets and status symbol were done away with. And then again, finally, if federal government and governments at all levels provides adequate funding for our federal universities. His recommendations are very simple. Government should regard universities as strategic assets that holds the key to economic development. Government should formulate policies that will bring about long-term harmony between government and the unions in the university, such as adequate funding, etc., etc. To our erudite valedictory lecturer, Professor Prince C. Nwakanma, indeed, Ecclesiastes 3 verses 1 to 2, as the Holy Book says, is a truism. To everything there is a season, a time to start work, and a time to retire from work. What else can we say? Thank you, Prof. Thank you for spending so long a time with us. It is time to say goodbye, Prof. We hugely congratulate you as you retire from the services of the University of Port Harcourt. On behalf of the management, staff, students, and stakeholders of this great university, of this unique university, we wish you the best in retirement, in good health, longevity, and all that you desire. Amen.
Thank you very much. We thank you so much for being part of this very wonderful 27th valedictory lecture series of the University of Port Harcourt. Thank you so much. We do appreciate you. I have a few announcements, just one announcement, not few. That a very special, what we call cocktail, Uniport standard, has been prepared for our valedictorian, his family, his special guests, and the professors that we have here. And we have a usual place that we shall meet. And so if you are involved, you come over there. And then for those of you who found time to honor our professor, as you go, may the Lord give you traveling mercies. May he guide you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let us take the Uniport anthem. The University of Port Harcourt anthem is going to be shown on the screen. So sing with us to celebrate our #1 spot as the best university in Nigeria. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, this is the procedure. The Vice Chancellor will lead all the principal officers with the instrumental music as we recess. Then, as we get to the entrance to the complex, we shall take a group photograph. Play a better song now. Now, please, for those of you who found time to be here, the family has prepared food for all of you. So go through the complex, go through the entrance, the upper chamber, so they can pick a very wonderful food. Thank you.